There we are, you guys. It looks like it's the end for Darwin Nunez at Liverpool Football Club. I know he's a fan favorite for many of us. Even though, yes, it's true he hasn't been the most successful on the pitch, he's someone that gave absolutely everything whenever he played on that pitch for Liverpool Football Club. But it looks like the club to club agreement between Liverpool and Al Hilal, the Saudi club, is done. And the latest from Fabrizio Romano is that the fee is an initial 53 million euros, and then there'll be lots in add-ons. So it looks like it could reach 65 million euros in add-ons. So it's not a crazy good fee, but he was gonna leave this summer. You know what I mean? Whether it was Napoli, AC Milan showed interest, Saudi showed interest, it just wasn't meant to be at Liverpool. And the most important thing in all of this is whether Arne backed Darwin Nunez or not, and he got to work a full season with him. And the fact that he got to work a full season with him and then didn't want to keep him in the summer just tells you everything. Again, it doesn't tell you everything that he's just going to be that he's a bad player, he's not going to make it at the top, that it's just not meant to be a Liverpool Football Club. The fact that he got his chance under Jurgen Klopp and then he got a chance under a new manager, Arne who plays differently, and in neither scenarios was it meant to be. Unfortunately, at some point, you just have to say it's time to move on, and I believe that's what the football club has done this summer, and that's why Darwin wants to leave as well, because he very well knows that the signing of Ikitike means he was no longer going to be a starter, and us pushing so hard on Alexander Isak also shows that, you know, he he wasn't going to be an important squad member anymore, and so he had to move on. And unfortunately for him, I think he probably would have preferred the move to an Italian club where he could have kept playing in Europe, playing in the Champions League potentially for a club like Napoli. But that's just the finances in football. I don't think that ever became a reality, like a real option, because they can't pay that kind of fee. And seemingly, they can't pay that kind of fee. I don't understand how AC Milan can't pay that kind of fee, because they did bring in a lot of money this summer, but seemingly they can't. And thankfully, at least in Saudi, he'll get the bag. They'll play him well. Inzaghi is a top manager, who wants him. He wants him in his team. So I really do think it'll get done. Now, Fabrizio said it's just left to the personal terms. But since the manager really wants him, and like I said, they can pay they can pay top wages. I don't think that's going to be an issue, because he knows that's now his only real option. Because Liverpool was always going to accept the highest bidder. Let's be honest, football is also a business. And with that money, I think we will go in with an improved offer for Alexander Isak, because it's looking like Darwin will leave as well. And no, not Darwin. It's looking like Harvey Elliott will leave as well. And that's major funds as well that will come into the football club. So when you add all of that up, I think it really will help us go in with an improved bid for Alexander Isak. And I've seen a lot of people be stressed out about that deal as well, because, Benjamin Sesko ended up choosing United, even though it looked like for a bit that he might be going to Newcastle. He chose United in the end, who pretty much matched the money and everything. So does that mean that now they're going to force Isak to go? I don't believe so. I think Isak will have to leave this summer. And the main reason I say that is because I think it would be too detrimental to force a player to stay who really doesn't want to be there. Because I'm just thinking from the squad point of view. Let's say Eddie Howe and the Newcastle ownership go to Isak and say, you have to stay one more season. But guess what? Liverpool can say, listen, next summer we don't know what our scenario will be. Maybe we actually will desperately need to sign X and X, so and so, and therefore we're not going to have the money for you anymore. So I think part of the pitch from Liverpool's point of view is it really is this summer or potentially never, and that's why Isak is forcing the move like he has, and his agent is pushing for the move as well, because even though Newcastle are doing well right now, it's very different. The scenarios of both clubs, like Liverpool in this moment in time, are fighting for the Premier League. They're fighting for the Champions League, like real contenders, potentially even favorites. Whereas Newcastle, let's be honest, it would be a miracle if they won the Champions League or the Premier League. And Isak knows a career is short, and like I said, you don't get these opportunities don't come around often, so you have to go for them. With the ambitions that he has. So I do believe, like I said, it would be too detrimental to the Newcastle team as well, because if they force Isak to stay and he's really unhappy, then imagine what someone like Bruno, who's another star player, who says, "Wait, what if at some point a top team comes in for me and Newcastle block my move?" Like, this is not the football club I want to be at, that blocks the moves of players when a team comes in and pays a fair value for that player. You know what I mean? So I think they're going to be forced to eventually accept it. And my hope is because they're forced in this situation, we're not going to have to go for the 150 million pounds that Newcastle are asking for. I think we're going to find an in between, hopefully at around 135. That's my hope, that we find something in between and we don't have to pay that crazy fee, because that's so much for one player. But like I said, with the way we're selling this summer, we've raised major funds, and that's why I'm very confident that we will go back in for Alexander Isak. I don't think we would have sold Darwin Nunez if we weren't confident of getting Alexander Isak, because that he seems like the outstanding one that we want in the market. And if we sell Darwin Nunez, then our real center forward position, we only have Ekitike there, and that's too short going into the new season, because it looks like Chiesa is going to leave as well. Lookman is on his way to Atalanta. Their number one option to replace him is Federico Chiesa. So I think he'll go back to Italy. He wants to be in that Italian squad for the World Cup, and Atalanta are even playing Champions League football, you know? So for him to be a starter for Atalanta is way better than just being a player who barely gets any minutes for Liverpool. You know, that's just the reality. So that's the rest of the movement I see happening. But like I said, I'm still very confident about Isak, because like I said, this situation, it would put Newcastle in if they forced him to stay. The fact that he's so desperate for the move, and the fact that Liverpool selling these players, and it looks like Harvey Elliott's on his way out as well, is major funds that we can put towards Alexander Isak. So you know, so all the stars are aligning, saying we're really pushing to make this a reality. You know, even though many people are saying, how are Liverpool making this move happen? People are not calculating just how many funds we're raising in the market this summer. Major funds. And I'm not so sure that's going to be possible next summer, you know, because it just seems like we have a lot of squad players right now that we can move on. Even Costas, I think, could still move this summer. There's no way we're going to have 3 senior left backs. And Ben Doak, it looks like there's a lot of interest for him, you know, and if a team bids like, let's say, 25 million pounds, which I don't think is impossible with the amount of teams interested, Premier League teams interested in Ben Doak, that's more major funds that we've raised, you know. So I don't understand people saying that Liverpool have all this money coming out of nowhere, because it's really not when you look at the actual overall business. But anyways, guys, what do you make of this Darwin move to Al Hilal, to Saudi? What do you make of Newcastle not getting Sesko and whoever else they'll have to get? It looks like it's either going to be Nicholas Jackson or Oli Watkins. That now is like their plan C, I guess. And are you confident that we're going to get Isak? I think it's kind of it has its 3 little pillars there of what could happen, what could snowball now, the snowball effects that could happen in this market. But like I said, the fact that we're moving so quickly on this sale of Darwin to Al Hilal, for me, it makes me more confident that we're going to sign a striker. And the only real striker that we've been linked with this summer is Isak, because he's our dream and we're pushing hard for that, you know? So, yeah, guys, let me know all of that. And thank you as always for the support. I will see you guys in the next one. It looks like a lot will be happening this week. So, lots to update on and lots to keep up to date on. So, let's see how all this. But I think there's really going to be a snowball effect as all of this moves. Like I said, Sesko choosing United, Darwin going to Saudi, and then we'll see what happens with Isak. But first, Newcastle have to find a replacement, and like I said, it seems like it's either going to be Oli Watkins or Nicholas Jackson. So let's see how all of it plans out. So ciao, guys, have a beautiful day, and I'll see you in the next one.